Welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. This podcast is a production of Elevate, an online learning platform for fundraising event professionals. We're coming to you today from the studios of the AV department. Please welcome our hosts, Kristen Steele and Samantha Swain.
Well, welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. We are looking forward to today's conversation. Meena is a mutual friend of mutual friends that I followed and stalked all around the AFP Icon Conference because of the work that she does in data analysis. The thing that I love so much about her work is that she's looking at it through an ethical lens, and she's looking at how we can be more human in our data. We have had a lot of episodes lately talking about AI. Now we're going to talk about AI from a practical application and humanness today with Meena. And so we're very excited to have you, Meena, on the show joining us. Kristen, let's do a formal introduction and let everyone know about our guest today.
Let's do it. Meena Das is the CEO, speaker, and consultant at Namaste Data. Meena is a specialist in designing and teaching equitable research tools and analyzing community engagement. She supports nonprofits in three critical areas: data collection, data capacity building, and staff workshops on artificial intelligence. I am so excited for this conversation. Thank you for joining us and being here today. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here, my friends. And what a bold way to start, to say I was following Meena at Icon, like in a recorded conversation. So I'm already enjoying the vibe. Thank you so much for having me.
It's true.
Sam at conferences builds a punch list, and then she just winds her way around. And
Meena was at the top of my list, and I went to multiple sessions trying to connect with her. And then at the end of the day, I learned that she was going to be doing a small presentation at a booth with one of our partner friends, Bloomerang. And I literally got there and they said, she just left. And I was like, no. So I reached out, and Meena was so gracious to say, oh, I'm so sorry we didn't get to connect. And so we connected after AFP Icon.
If any time two amazing people want to talk about a topic you're interested in from a very professional looking studio, you never say no, you say yes.
And it's going to all be downhill from here. Right. She's set the bar very, very high. Here we go. So Meena, I'm going to start it off with just the whiz bang $10,000 question today, which is, do we actually need AI in the nonprofit sector? And if so, what would it actually take for the sector to understand AI?
Wow.
I know.
I knew I was getting into hard questions, and I knew I was prepared for this, but do we actually need AI or not? I think we live in a world where we tend to focus more on what we can versus what we should. That's the kind of world we live, where the can always gets a little bit more weight than should. And just because of that, a bunch of people over many, many decades, I'm not going to say AI came in 2022 when Sam Altman put it on the map. It happened over decades when a lot of people put their wisdom and mind and creativity to put together this technology. And so I don't think we necessarily need any of it. I mean, all we really truly need is be able to eat and have a joyful life and, live with our family.
Yeah.
But here we are. We have this technology. The question really is, from day one of anything, and especially this powerful technology, is whether we should or not. Yeah. The problem, one of the biggest problems specifically with AI is, and this is coming out of one of my conversations that just happened, an organization is trying to place an AI committee that oversees every single tool that is going to be passed in that organization month over month, so that no one gets access to any other tool. This is an interesting idea that I have to navigate with this organization, but I see some potential red flags in there, right? One, right now, the access to tools is so easy in the sector that anyone can pay like $7 a month to $20 a month, and you get access to some beta alpha version of some tool immediately.
Yeah.
And number two, we already have a space where we kind of judge each other when we see something built out of ChatGPT. Oh, that PowerPoint that just came out of ChatGPT. That blog, I see that. Those are the words that comes out of Perplexity. Those are the words that comes out of Claude. We immediately have this judgment. And so I think in the sector, we need more space to dream and understand what is the possibility of this technology, not from a narrative that is being fed from tech companies or beautiful marketing teams, but that comes from within. That comes from the place where we understand, if we do this, what does this mean? Without having judgments, without having to privately secure some new tools and use it for my work and not mention it to my team members. How do we build safer spaces where we can talk about this technology, not just in a way to take care of 4 items on my to-do list so that I can add 14 more? Because again, I can, it's not a question of should, right? And so to your question, Tristan, maybe or maybe not, we need AI. It has a lot of power. It's a lot of power. It's a powerful technology. We can do so much more than just prompting with it. Right now, where we are is just using it for some tasks. But we need more dreaming. We need pauses. We need reflection. We need clear sense of why we are using it. If we don't have any of those, we will always be in the loop to somehow prompt something, find something, use something, and that's it. And that's not sustainable. A short-term recipe for getting rid of our to-do list, but it's not a long-term sustainable version of how to use a powerful technology like AI.
I absolutely love the idea about dreaming, which to me is a very human-centered activity around a technology tool. And I think you also, for me, really named the inevitability for our sector, that if organizations aren't dreaming about potential and what that could look like, the people within them are going to be utilizing these tools privately because, I mean, for a bazillion reasons. So you can either lean into the moment or you can continue to create that friction and to somehow think that it's not going to infiltrate's a strong word, but that, like, as an organization, to think that it's not somehow going to infiltrate, I think is, I don't know. Again, I don't know if naive is the right word or what, but if we just assume this is here.
Well, it's already showing up. And I mean, even if you don't intentionally make choices to use an AI or open AI tool, it's built into so many of our tools and platforms and data resources. So it's interesting to think about I'm curious in your work, Meena, with the consulting that you do and the organizations you're consulting on, what are some of the either roadblocks or experiences that on an organizational level? We just had a conversation last week with Josh Hirsch diving into sort of the user experience. How do you drive AI? How do you really maximize it to create ease in your workflow? It was very, sort of task oriented, but the bigger questions, the philosophical questions, the fear questions, the what if questions, the how to adopt questions, what does that look like on an organizational level when you're coaching and consulting?
It comes up in a lot of ways. I think you talk to an individual, they are worried about their job, first and foremost. They're worried about their job. They're worried about their to-do list. We almost take this line, and this is where I feel like I have a different opinion on this line that we hear so much in the sector. We are a sector that loves to serve the community with less. I have heard this statement. We are a sector which can do a lot more with a lot less. These are all used as badge of honor, almost as a permission that let things be as they are. Like, we can't challenge them.
Let's rise to mediocrity.
Why should we do that? And I want to start my response with with the dreaming two organizations. Say organization A, right now, the version that we have right now, there is a board, there is a leadership that is interested to bring something with AI in the organization. Maybe they heard a conference or two, the words AI, and attended a session or two, took some notes, brought it back to the organization, gave it to their IT team. They have their staff members using ChatGPT, free or not, paid by themselves or not, a few other tools. This is a version of AI that exists right now in the sector. What if we have a version of an organization where everything, right from placing the targets to generally dreaming on what this sector should look like now that we are constantly threatened from the administrations, from the conflicts of the world, what does our mission look like a few years down the line? What does our mission look like when we serve the community? An organization, imagine for a second, that has those dreaming sessions and places them in the goals and outcomes. We haven't started to talk about AI just yet, and then brings in the conversation about AI on a table where every staff member is involved and starts with, what do we need to use this technology for this version of the dream that we just spoke about? And we start there instead of just saying, Meena, go use these two prompts. Sam, you use these two prompts, right? There's nothing wrong with either approaches. The approach with the second organization is that it creates that safe space. It creates that opens the door for a little bit of an experimentation that the tools in the sector are changing so fast, or not just the sector, like the tech sector is producing so many AI tools almost every other month. And we are creating a space of experimentation, letting each other fall if we need to, without breaching data privacy, but allowing each other to learn something new, bring it back to the team without judgments, and at the same time ensuring that it aligns with the broader mission. It sounds vague. I mean, it might sound vague, or it might sound a difficult task, but it truly is not. It requires an understanding that we don't have to produce something constantly. We can take a pause, and whatever we come up with will be grounded in who we are and on our mission. That is a version of the second organization that I carry in my imagination, where I believe we can reach. And to your question, the challenges, Sam, what you asked from org A to org B, I think there comes the training, right? There comes the lack of enough tables where we have these conversations. The moment AI comes up, it's either it's a magic tool, or a bunch of people withdraw from the conversation, or it just immediately becomes the conversation about the people who are involved with data. So whether it's prospect researchers or IT people, or a fundraiser who once said, I am interested in data, and now it's their responsibility all of a sudden to have all opinions about AI and just them. But the reality is, this is a technology that needs all of us to be involved in some way if we want it to be useful in the long run. We need the data scientists. We need the IT people. We need the leadership. We need the board. We need you and me, whatever our role is in this moment, the questioners, the curiosity people, the dreamers, the challengers. I don't know how many words we can come up with, but we need them all in this conversation to come up with a beautiful version of this technology for the long run. That is the biggest challenge, that we don't have tables that allows everyone to join in and participate in that conversation. When we don't have tables, we don't have conversations. When we don't have conversations, we don't know how to raise those funds and where to go and build that capacity that we need for AI. And that just means a little bit of a gap at the leadership level and at the board level, to be honest, because they are pushing down a version of AI from their organizations where they haven't had the conversation about AI in the sense. So it's a puzzle where we all need to take, I call this individual accountability and collective power. We can't have individual power. It's individual accountability. I am responsible to bring a version of this on the table for the conversation, and then together we build the power. But we have to do this together to go from that org A to org B. All those challenges we have to do it together.
What I love about your example of org B is that that's work, regardless of AI, organizations should actually be doing to fix a lot of what's broken in the sector, right? That we can sit at a table and dream together about this mission and this work.
And what's possible.
And what's possible versus, oh my God, how do we plug this hole? How do we plug this hole? How do we stop being reactionary and be dreamers and visionary in that thing? And what I love about that in the context of AI is so many times, and I think why I am so resistant to AI, is that AI becomes the gatekeeper in a conversation when we introduce it as the conversation. So if we have that conversation about who are we in the future with AI, that's a very different conversation, specifically if I'm at the table because I don't know squat about the potential of AI.
Yeah.
I don't understand the tool.
Yeah.
But if I'm able to understand the potential of my passion and my work and the skill sets I do have and what I want to see in the future, and then we have a conversation about how that can walk hand in hand with the tool, I feel like that's a different conversation. Does that feel like some of that for Org B's potential in their future and their use of AI is that they are on solid ground with their why before the tool starts limiting or accelerating what they're doing?
100%. If I can put it into my workshop style exercise,
Please.
It's almost like giving a huge white or pink is my favorite color, pink chart paper to the staff members. And we say, let's draw our vision. Let's draw what the world looks like in X years. Let's draw how our community could be looking like in their joyful state in X years. Let's put that vision in words, in poems, in pictures, in drawings. Let's put that on a huge piece of paper. And then let's start figuring out what technologies and tools and processes and learnings from different cultures exist that we can place at different points on the chart paper to go from point A to point B. We can be using these things that exist in the world. From point B to point E, we might need to create a new version of AI plus wisdom from indigenous community. It can be, it's up to us. It's your chart paper. It's your imagination. It's your version. It's your dream. Anything is possible. So why don't we use it for good and then figure out with every beautiful thing existing and available in the world, how do we use for good on that chart paper? Instead of saying, now this chart paper belongs to one big tech company. Now start figuring out which of their tools will you place for stewardship and outreach and communication. We will always stay within this boundary if we start there. This is your AI tools. Use them, fit them somehow into your day-to-day job. We will always be restricted by a box. I want us to go out of the box. I want us to see what is the world like if we start imagining ourselves in a circle or in triangles or go see what is possible out there. The what if question doesn't happen until we step out of the box.
And now we have this episode's t-shirt. I love it.
Welcome to Meena's TED Talk. Amazing. It is this element that I think we talk a lot from the task perspective, and we miss the opportunity for the human perspective, having all thinkers in the room as a conversation starter. It's exciting to me to think about it from that perspective, because I do think that right now there's a large fear. There's a lot of anxiety and stress about like how data gets used. But I think that we think of data points so often as things like address, demographics, giving levels, income levels. But we miss that data also is like human interaction and engagement and how people move through the world, how people interact with the world. So to think of a tool that has the ability to sort of be a thought partner in the room with you changes it from being something I'm using in my like checkbox. I love the box analogy because I'm like, well, when we get out of the checkbox, we're moving into a world of how do we have these bigger conversations and then utilize AI to help us get there further, faster. I mean, the nonprofit sector, while we put a badge on, we do a lot with a little, and we have this scarcity mindset. I also think the nonprofit sector was built to solve problems.
Right.
And so how amazing to have tools now in our sort of toolkit that are not just the expertise of the sector we're in, but are also bigger thought partners from the AI space.
Yep. Meena, you've talked a little bit about in the cycle of AI about humans actually and AI stepping into AI and that feeding the beast. So I'm wondering if you can explain that a little bit and why it is that we need to hold on to who we are outside of AI.
I think that one is really coming out of a question that I get too often, or maybe I'm getting too often lately and out of my webinars. The question goes something like this. So, Meena, and this is a real thing that happened in the most recent conference I was in last week. Someone raised their hand in the middle of my AI presentation and they said, "Can I ask a question?" I ask my staff members when they use ChatGPT, they create a lot of these donor appeals and letters. I always ask my staff members to make it more human, make it more make it more our organizational style, and then send it out to the donor community. Do you have any suggestions on how we can do that better? How we can put more human in the things that come out of AI? Interesting question, common question. But before I could respond, something interesting happened. Someone else raised their hand and said, "Meena, can I respond to that question?" Which is lovely because I always believe in collectivism. So why not? Someone else should respond to it. And this person said, the best way you can do that is when you write your prompts, make sure that you are feeding it everything. You're feeding it your mission, you're feeding it your vision, any strategic plans you have. Just give as much as you can on the prompt, and whatever comes out, that will be you in the best way possible. And while that is not an entirely wrong answer, it is true. The more we feed into the prompt, the better the response gets. It's literally like teaching AI who you are. So it is part of the process, not wrong at all. But the problem is we are almost building a cycle here, and I think we are unable to see it just yet, unless you are, extremely nerdy like me who lives in like the bottom floor of the rabbit hole, then you probably do. But it's almost like we teach AI, or let's say in this case, ChatGPT, or a tool like ChatGPT, we give it in the prompt 15 articles, 15 PDFs of our mission and everything that we do. We gave it everything, who we are, who we are going to be, who we were in 15 documents, to be able to come up with some letter, some version of text that represents the most Meena. And once it is out of that tool, I have to spend another hour to make sure it is Meena, more Meena, because that was not enough Meena with 15 documents teaching AI. It's just like, it's a bit of a cycle. And some days I do feel like I don't know enough English as an immigrant, probably, that I'm able to explain this cycle. But this is the issue. We do need to spend time on who we are. So to your question, why do we need to know who we are? It is because it can pretty easily, pretty quickly become this loop where we feed something, we get something, we work on and tweak it a little bit, we make it our letter. The next time we are going back to ChatGPT, we will feed this letter again and say, "Hey, this is my version. Now work on this and come up with something else." But at some point, we do need to make some actual active space of knowing who Meena is in this moment.
Yep.
She may be becoming a different person than what those 15 documents said, or she may be a different person or a different direction than what I actually am able to articulate in this moment. I need to give myself that breathing space for my brain and my mind and my gut to react and respond and think, where do I want to go? It all comes down to, I feel like I use the word imagination and dreams way too often these days, but it just gets missed so easily. I need to give Meena the space to dream who Meena wants to be, so that I can ensure that whatever Meena-ness is on those outputs and the texts, it is there.
Yep.
It is not coming out because I collected 15 documents which said that these were going to be my strategic plans or whatever the comps were in the past. It's coming from someone who I am now in this moment. So we do need that active space. We cannot rely solely on this chain of pull something out of AI, make sure that it is in your tone, whatever you know your tone is, and then send it out. We do need at some places, maybe for me, it looks like every 3 months, a retreat with myself or a self-reflection process every 5 weeks, or when I do trainings and I'm a resident AI advisor for some nonprofits, we take active few minutes every AI learning session to figure out, okay, who you are, is that coming out in the conversation or not? So it really starts with, I'm a sister, I'm a mother, I like this, I don't like this is who I am in the last 15, 20, 30 days. Is it showing up in your communication or not? Is it showing up in your action or not? Is it showing up in what you're doing with AI or not? It could also be the reason that I'm both a data scientist as well as a life coach. So I try to blend both when I'm talking about things.
Well, what's a good reminder about that is that you need to stay the storyteller of your narrative, right?
Own your narrative.
You need to own your narrative and be the one telling that.
Well, and have like an emotional and responsive connection to the now, which is, I think, a hard thing to do when, you know, we're being informed regularly about the world we're in. And so how does the communication we're creating respond in this moment to the current situation? I want to step back, though, and just highlight that Meena just said that she is a life coach and a data scientist. I love that you are so like left-right brain, because to me, this AI conversation is a merge of sort of left-right. Like, how do we use technology in order to allow humanness to be more human, right? To use a Rachel Baerbauer term, let the humans be human. My sort of thinking about the moving from task into from the checkbox to the circle, I'm curious, how do you coach organizations to move away from that question, to move away from the questions of how do I improve
what are
tasks?
all the tasks I can get rid of if I utilize this tool?
And thinking about it less from efficiency and more from mission impact. Yeah. Like, how do you move that needle for folks?
Wow, that's okay. I don't know if that was a question I was going to be asked, but okay, this is a great question. So I will respond to it with happiness. I first do want to acknowledge why I choose to blend this data science and life coaching thing. I think it's true a little bit for all of us. We do have topics or spaces or, you know, areas in our individual lives where binary doesn't hold us enough. You know, we are neither enough of this part nor enough of that part. I grew up in India. I now have been living for the last 10 years in this Western part of the world. And I feel like I belong to both the parts. And I still have a huge issue with calling just one part my home. My home is a bigger word now. Same with the left part and the right part of the brain. But I love doing things with algorithms and designing them. And yet, I feel like it's not enough in the way we approach these things. We need a different approach. And there comes the life coaching. There comes the imagination, the dreaming part from the life coaching parts. And so I think we all have those spaces where we don't belong in those binary conversations. We need more. We need a hybrid. We need a mix, a combination. This became my combination. And it allowed me to see that it is okay to not fit completely into one box or one side of things. We are always going to be the creatures who are struggling between fitting in versus standing out. How do we fit into this conversation with this group of people, with this team, with this organization? But the thing about fitting in and picking a side and restricting to it is we lose a little bit of ourselves. So now, for not picking, again, the binary of these two things, I try to stand out, like be who you are. You might be a combination, a cocktail, a mocktail, no idea. You can be the best version of you, but be you. And the same philosophy translates into my coaching sessions when I'm talking about doing these things with AI and data equity with the organizations. You start with who you are. You start with a list of your strengths and your joys. Literally, when I do my AI assessments for foundations and nonprofits, it has a question: what does your joyful version working with AI looks like? What do you want to do? What does that look like? And I collect all these responses, and then it translates into thinking about use cases of AI. It doesn't start just with go to your to-do list and find the tasks you can automate. No, that's a possibility. That's a version that we can go. But why don't we start with what's your joyful version looks like? And then we start to come up with ideas where we can use some of these tools or AI or processes or better data points. And then we don't stop there. We take it and go back to our team and we have a conversation, have them do the same thing, and let's have a chat. Let's talk to each other. Let's figure out, is your version too different than mine? Is there a version where we combine yours and mine to make a team vision, a team version? Or is there something that you are thinking as well as me? And so there's a bit of redundancy, and can we combine our efforts as opposed to recreating new wheels? I think we can create a lot more by having open, honest conversations with each other about these topics, which doesn't start with, how do I use this technology for good? Start with, who are you in this moment? We are in a world that is in conflict for the last 2.5 years and going through wars, and our communities are struggling and suffering in different ways. It affects us, and I'm not saying we don't get affected, that we try to contain the parts of news, right? So we are being shaped by the world events around us. So why do we assume that the version we knew from the college or from our first job still holds true? My motivations might have changed in the few years or in the past few months. Allow to acknowledge that change, allow to acknowledge who you are now, find who you are now, bring in the tools, bring in how technology can be helpful for who you are now, talk to your team, find those, build those tables. If those tables don't exist in the organization, build those tables. And I think we don't need to be too prescriptive to find one path that can go for every organization. I think this is enough of a recipe for people to come up with their own version of the same dish that they create.
I also think what I love here is, and want to underscore, is that purpose is dynamic. So this assessment in a moment, I'm moving through time as an individual. We as a team are moving through time, that people enter and exit. What I also want to underscore, that's kind of making my brain explode a little, is to stop also thinking about AI as an individual endeavor. So when we orient to a task list, usually it's me and my task list, right? And how I'm suffering under the weight of that and what that is. And if I get rid of these, then I have to take on these, whatever that navigation is. And what I'm loving the idea of is collective purpose in tool utilization, and what that can look like, and how we all use them differently and engage differently, and how that can, us bringing that to the table and talking about that, can create an even bigger amplification of our work versus, no, Sam's right, that's how we should use it.
One way.
But then I also individually keep using it how I use it over here. And so we're not able to reap the benefit of all these use cases, right? And how that's actually building our bigger organization and what that is. Anyway, I'm having some revelation over here, and it's great. And I appreciate that.
It's a beautiful analogy to look at that idea, sort of like you just put a nice big magnifying glass on it, Meena. I think of, we in this capitalistic society go straight toward the productivity and the task. And how do we move beyond that? How do we get out of a binary? How do we stop thinking of it as with or without the tool, and, looking at the checklist and thinking about dream space, collective voice, collective purpose. Those are big, hard questions that I don't think a lot of organizations do often enough just toward their mission, let alone thinking about how they're integrating resources and tools in that. I love your
how
question.
we do work. Yeah.
I love your question about joy, though.
Yeah.
Sam, Kristen, can I add the importance we place on arbitrary timelines?
Mm-hmm.
The moment we see, okay, this is 2 hours done of our collective time, that is enough of this. What is this? I mean, I do run a business and I come from the for-profit world. I have worked for years in the tech before I, graduated to this nonprofit world. So I do understand the importance of timelines at key critical places. Sure. But I think for some reason, some weird reason, we have become the humans where we need a timeline for every single thing. We want to control every single thing. Like almost like if this is not happening in a week, this is not my thing. Or this is not happening in 2 hours. Our team doesn't need to figure this out for going on and on. How long will they keep thinking about this? We need to put an end to this. Right. The board meeting happens in April and we need to get this done before the last week of March or something. But we never ask, what if it doesn't happen? What if the other option or other reality happens? What if we go beyond the board meeting to discuss this and go back to the board and say, what is going to break in that question? I mean, I feel like almost we're coming out of pandemic where we have lost too much in the world and the world has changed in some very significant ways where we are never going back to the world that was before COVID. And it should be a lesson enough without waiting for another pandemic to happen to question what needs to be questioned and challenge what needs to be challenged, change what needs to be changed. And this is one of those things, not sticking to arbitrary timelines and then holding each other falsely accountable for those that you haven't done this in a week when we discussed this was supposed to be done in like 2 days or whatever. So that is another reason where we fail on our experimentations, on our expectations when it comes to powerful technologies like AI.
I think that also speaks a lot about equity. And I want to dive into that when we come back from our break, because you are working on the AI equity project. And so when we come back, we're going to take just a short break to hear from one of our partners. And when we come back, we want to learn more about that from you. We'll be right back.
Ready to take your fundraising to the next level? Need to get unstuck in your event planning? Now's your chance to connect directly with the experts behind the Fundraising Elevator. Book a one-on-one consulting session with Sam for strategic planning and fundraising strategy, with Kristen for your program and storytelling, or Mary for your registration and data tools. They're here to provide you personalized answers to all your event questions. Don't wait. Raise more at your next fundraising event. Book your session today at elevatenonprofit.com. You can also find the link in the show notes.
Welcome back. We're here with Meena Das, who's making my brain explode in all the good ways. We were talking about AI equity, what's possible when we dream alongside technology, all of these things. Meena, you were in the midst of a study, the AI Equity Project. Can you talk to us about the project and what it is that you're finding?
Oh, gladly. So AI Equity Project is let's take a step back. So last year, end of 2023, I realized along with a group of passionate people over sipping coffees that we don't have anything in the sector that points us who we are as a sector when it comes to artificial intelligence. There are a few studies, I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some, but they speak a lot more about from tech stack point of view or storage or memory or cloud point of view, but they don't speak so much from the point of view of who should be held accountable, who are we as a sector, how many of us are using AI on a task basis versus mission-based, or who are our funders? When I tried to find out funding for AI or capacity building for AI, hardly anything comes up. Like, and this was end of 2023, early 2024. So a group of us decided to open this up and make this a 3-year study. Primarily, one of the 2 people who were involved from the beginning was Michelle Flores, my friend, my guide, my mentor on this project, and me, these 2 nerdy people in the sector who wants to offer this sector a different approach to this technology. We wanted to collect some data that is the data of the community, stays with the community. So it's open data. And it's going to be a 3-year study. So we are in year 2 right now. Year 1 was 2024. We asked and collected data points from like 30, 40 different aspects, so 30, 40 different questions and metrics. And we asked about where do you use AI to what do you feel about AI? Do you have enough understanding of the biases in AI? Do you have enough understanding of who should be held accountable for AI? Is it you individually? Is it your legislature? Is it your leadership? Is it your board? And this year we shifted the focus to ask questions like, who are your funding sources? If you would get unlimited funding, what do you want to do with that when it comes to AI? Where do you want to start? The whole purpose of the data last year and this year and the coming year is to build versions of out of that can be useful depending on who is reading this data. Tech companies reading this data, they need to understand that they are going to be held accountable with how they produce their technology.
Yeah.
It is not enough to say, mine is a proprietary tech, and so we can share how we put responsible AI as a top layer on our technology. When you read this report, the tech companies are requested, asked, encouraged to have certain sense of responsible AI guidelines on their product and how they should be talking about it transparently. When this report is read by the funders, they are asked and encouraged to move dollars to build that capacity. If nonprofits are constantly struggling to bring AI and they're being bombarded with this term 500 times a week, they should have space to be able to experiment. And funding comes is a major issue out of that.
Yeah.
When different nonprofits read this report, I need them to come up with ideas of collaboration with similar nonprofits, sister nonprofits in the same area, same geographical location, same mission, so that the collaborations in our sector is not restricted to tech and nonprofit, tech and tech, or anything with tech on the table. There are more possibilities, academic institutions with nonprofits, nonprofit with nonprofit, nonprofit with a grassroots level organization, social justice organization with a nonprofit, with registered charity. There are a lot of different combinations. We just need a little bit of permission to dream differently. And so I want this report, when it goes out to a nonprofit, to be seen as a permission, not just as a way to benchmark yourself. Like when the first report came out last year, a lot of people, and about 700 nonprofits participated, by the way. I'm expecting 1,000 to participate this year.
Great.
When the first report came out, a lot of people asked, should we create some scores so that nonprofits can benchmark? And should we create an AI equity score? And my data scientist brain can create a score easily. Yes, because that's what my world has been for the last 17 years, creating scores and putting them on metrics and KPIs and on a dashboard. But I am intentionally choosing we are not going to do that. That's who we are always as a world. Quickly turn a lot of context, reducing it to a number so that we can compare ourselves who we are compared to that next organization. But that's not the intention. So we are not going to be doing this in a way where we allow each other to be compared to each other. If we can come up with ideas of collaboration, that is the intention of reading this report. Find joy in that, find ways to collaborate with each other, find ways to see how we can augment our capacity, but that until we have this amazing extra dollars of funding from different organizations. Can we co-create dreaming sessions? Can we do something together where we can come up with new potential ideas of AI use cases? And something interesting has come up that I'm seeing in the 2025 study so far, by the way, is most nonprofits are sharing their biggest challenge with AI. Last year, which was, by the way, board and leadership support, this year, it's also coming out to be, we don't know what our use cases of AI should be. So we don't know how to pitch for funding. And maybe not shocking, but something interesting here that we can work on together as a sector, helping our nonprofits to understand how to come up with your use cases, how to ask different questions, how to ask better questions. That is all AI Equity Project is about.
I was going to ask you about sort of results that you're already seeing, not to ask you to analyze your data yet, but the sort of trends, because I do think that there's that famous quote that comparison is the thief of joy. So I love that you're not putting a score intentionally to create comparison, but instead to encourage collaboration. Are you already seeing like case studies or stories come out of the data that are like leading to new ahas or potential of how AI tools can be more collaborative and informative for nonprofits working together?
That's a great question. And I'll take that when I get to reading that data. I usually tend to wait until I have captured and collected all the data. So my brain doesn't read some of the responses and immediately feel like I want to do a sideways data collection. I'm seeing this thread. So the data collection goes on until June end. So this Friday, I will be putting it out. We have about 900 responses so far. So I'm really hoping that all the pushing out in the next 4 or 5 days helps for collecting the remaining responses. And I will be sure to pull some aha moments out there. I am capturing, so I have a little bit of a window I call report your data harms. And people have been submitting their stories of the harms they have captured to data and AI. And I'm taking appropriate permissions of what we can share and with whom we can share and all that. And I'm hoping to pull some of those harms into the report to say, look, there are some harms that are happening. We can be going beyond that, but we can't really just put them under the rug or make them the highlight or the centerpiece, but we still need to be able to acknowledge what these are. So here are some of those things. I'll definitely look for aha as well as the harms.
I like that. What is the geographic area of folks participating in the study? How broad? Because I'm just anticipating our audience and thinking like,
it doesn't pertain to me.
This isn't what I'm talking about. Like just what does that sample look like?
Majority of them are coming from United States and Canada at this point, and some of them are coming from Europe, a few handful responses from Australia. My intention is to open it up broadly to get an understanding of that geographical context in the future. So hopefully I'll be able to pull up some more ways that this data collection can go beyond the western part of the world to more towards the east. And we can, I definitely want to understand and bring to the world this level of governance with AI looks very different right now. Governments are responding and reacting to AI very differently, depending on the country and depending on the continent you are part of. And that does affect the tools and the understanding and the comfort of the people living in that country with artificial intelligence. And so when we collect this data, we can pair it with some of the geographical context. So right now it's mostly US and Canada, but hopefully acknowledging what we can achieve if we open it up for the entire world. Fingers crossed.
I love that. I'm wondering, so I feel like we're kind of circling the idea of trust. And I think there's user and technology trust and what that is and sort of potential harm and data and all of those pieces. I also am thinking trust on a larger scale. Like I'm thinking about me as an organization and my relationship with my donor. And that there's a tacit trust agreement there in terms of your funding and our work and our missions and alignment and trust and what that is. And when AI enters the picture, is there potential impact on trust for organizations and their utilization of AI? And do you have some kernels of wisdom for them when they're sitting to sort of think about that and navigate that as an organization?
I mean, it depends on how we are thinking of using AI in the equation of the relationship, right? We're using the possible AI solutions that exist right now in the market can be automating your communication with your donor, to helping you write and draft everything you want to say to your donor, to
Right.
figuring out who your donors should be to the next event. You can use AI for that. You can figure out using AI when your communication to your donor should be, so they immediately open it very actively and react to it and respond to it. So there are just a bunch of solutions that exist on the scale of things for your relationship with your donor. But fundamentally speaking, yes, it's a technology, and yes, it does matter how we use it, because it can affect the relationship that you have with your donor. So it depends on where you are using it, how you are using it. For example, if you are putting all the personal demographic information, identifiable information into ChatGPT or a ChatGPT-like tool, you are kind of breaching that trust by
Yeah.
offering them most basic information about them into a tool that we don't know where it's going to go immediately. Similarly, when you are doing data collection from your donors, and you are asking a bunch of questions without any context on the demographic information, and then you are feeding all of that into an AI tool to pull some stories of harms or good stories, depending on the ethnicity, race, gender information. Like you want to figure out what are the different demographics and the stories by different demographics. We are kind of, again, putting our communities at risk. So especially like right now with communities that are coming from immigration, refugee communities, they are hesitant to share their information in any shape or form. So feeding any of that information without context into AI opens them up for risk, as well as affects your relationship, because now these people won't trust you, that this is the person who doesn't care where our data goes or feeds and doesn't have information for us. What will happen to us? Would we be denied any service or access to any service if we don't offer this data? These are all real valid questions that come up when we're working with AI. So in terms of a wisdom, for lack of a better term, that I can give, I don't know if I can give any wisdom, but being transparent and holding myself accountable on that level of transparency is really important. Sharing with the donors what you are doing with their data, how you are obtaining that data, and how long will you store that data for is important. Whether it's a data collection work you are doing, or you are feeding that into AI and then sending them an image that you generated out of DALL-E or something, you can type in a little note that this came out of a AI image generator when I prompted something. And so you offer a little bit of your life, this work, more transparently to your donors. How is this coming out to be? And you almost, when you offer that transparency, I believe you almost invite someone to join in that exploration in a more ethical way, in a more responsible way, in a more joyful way almost. I have written newsletters where I send out, this part comes out of my experiment with AI. And then I get responses back saying, Meena, this is what I tried and this is what I saw this happen. And it's wonderful. It's almost like a permission when you tell someone how you are doing things. It's almost like a permission to someone else to share that they are doing the same or similar things. This is the way that they are doing it. So I think that transparency is something that I would offer.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Well, I am interested to learn about the results of the study and where you see opportunity, sort of where those connection points are, where those sort of moments of risk and joy occur. I'm curious from your perspective, just as you found this to be your passion, your interest, clearly a place that you find joy. What do you vision or have a hope for in the nonprofit sector? Coming out of this study, coming out of this tool, thinking about if the nonprofit sector were really to adopt AI, where do you find little glimmers of hope in that?
Wow, I kind of almost always start with, this is the hardest question, haven't I? In the last one out.
We've been building up to this one.
This one is because, so when the AI Equity Project started in 2024, it did need a few interviews in the beginnings of the data collection to just get a sense of, are we asking the right questions? Am I missing anything in the bigger picture of things that we want to ask? And a lot of people came back saying, I'm seeing the same reaction people had when emails came up in early 2000s and 2005, and people were hesitant to use emails, or the shift from floppy disks to CDs to Bluetooth, and that level of technology, regardless of the technology, there has been a little bit of a hesitancy in the beginning. And when I do this work, whether I'm consulting, teaching, speaking, or collecting data for this AI Equity Project, I definitely want not to repeat the same experience or hesitancy for this technology 15 years from now. I want a different sector altogether, which is not constantly worried about their data captured in Excel spreadsheets. Maybe I'm asking too much, knowing from the wisdom of the sector. Maybe I'm asking too much, but I want to ask too much because I know that truly this sector cares a lot. We get our hearts broken almost every single day, a little bit working in this. We see communities that still need support that go unsupported. End of the day, we see people who need more food, who don't get that food access from the food banks. End of the day, and yet next day we show up hoping that something else can happen, a different outcome can happen. For some reason, we keep showing up. And for that reason, for which we are showing up, I want a different sector 15 years from now, not constantly worried where our data is going to be stored or who is trying to threaten us for using or not using this technology, but it comes from within us. And I do believe in the power that we can do if only we start imagining better. And I have a quote on my table somewhere here. Imagination is the only weapon in the war with reality. I love that, and I keep it handy. We are kind of in a war with some form of reality almost always. And imagination is that antidote. So that is what I want for the sector.
Your dream gives me goosebumps on the arms.
I love it. I love it.
Well, we're going to take one last break, and when we come back, we're going to jump in the fundraising elevator. We'll be right back. We've been partnering with Greater Giving for over 20 years as our go-to event auction software. Greater Giving allows us to do our job, planning fundraising events, even better because we can manage guest lists, seating, bid number assignments, and sales all in one place.
That makes it great for our nonprofit partners and their guests. Check out Greater Giving for your next event at greatergiving.com. Link in the show notes. Welcome back. We are here with Meena Dawson. We are going to get in the fundraising elevator. We ask all of our guests to join us in the fundraising elevator where we're all headed up. It's that opportunity to have our guests offer that one tip, that one bit of wisdom to our nonprofit superheroes out there so that they can also keep heading up. Meena, what would you offer our folks?
We have talked about this. I can talk from flavors of ice cream to AI, everything. But one tip, you're asking me to stick to one tip. I'll stick to AI, and I'll say, focus on learning as much as we know everything that this world offers through windows like ChatGPT and Perplexity, and the whole world feels shrunk into this one window and you can ask anything. Never stop learning who you are becoming in this moment, and truly what our morals or values are, because that is what is going to shape artificial intelligence in the coming year. It's going to come down to whose values, the tech company's values, your values, my values. We cannot enter into war after war for the sake of lack of clarity on who we are. So never drop continuous learning from one of your goals, because that is going to affect and shape and make this a sustainable conversation for the long term.
I think that that's wisdom for everyone, not just in AI. I think that we are in a place where while things are being destroyed, we're watching new things be built, and I think that as we go through this global evolution that is happening right now, that idea of being a constant learner and constant understanding of who you are in this moment and your own morals and your own values will help us to rebuild something beautiful. So I love that tip. How do folks find you, first of all, if folks want to learn more about your work? And also, can folks get involved with the AI Equity Project?
Absolutely. So if folks want to find me, they can find me either on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I take a lot of effort to be active on LinkedIn, and oh my gosh, social media really takes a lot of effort.
Yes,
So you can easily find me on LinkedIn with my full name, Meena Das, or you can find me on my website, which is Namaste Data, NAMASTEDATA.org. So it's a pretty simple, pretty easy website. I drink a lot of cups of coffee to make sure that the website also stays updated. So yes, the team also worked very hard to make sure my website stays updated. So yes, you can find me on the website, or you can email me through my website or reach to me via social media. Please do reach out because I do love conversations and tea and coffee. For the AI Equity Project, the data collection ends end of this week. So maybe by the time we are all listening to this episode, the data collection may have stopped, but the report comes out early or mid-September this year. So keep an eye for that. And also bookmark the website or the microsite for AI Equity Project 2025. The report will launch in a few different ways, in a conference style, in the report format on social media, as well as on the microsite. So you can, for the sake of accessibility, access these open reports a few different ways. And if you have any doubts and questions how you can get involved with this project, like I said, go visit my website and you will find me and we can talk this over tea or coffee.
Well, we will have all of these links in the show notes, and we'll have to have you back to share what your findings are when the report is out. So, Meena, thank you for joining us today to talk about dreaming, to talk about how we can be more human in this technology space, and for sort of melting our brains a little about what might be possible. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Stay well.
The Fundraising Elevator is produced in partnership with Swaim Strategies at the studios of the AV Department. The program is produced and directed by Steve Osborne, with audio engineering and original music by Dwayne Anderson, Heidi Christensen, and Adam Breeden. Video production by Shannon Doran. Graphic design by Pendulum Creative Group. Marketing by Lisa Aragon. Support from Mary Elizabeth, Todd Campbell, John Lyles, and Andy Dowsett. And voiceover by Josh Boykin.
Hey y'all, it's Kristen. Before we leave, I want to ask for your help to make the podcast grow. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please like, follow, and subscribe to the Fundraising Elevator. And if you're getting a lot out of the show, share it with a friend. Leave us a review. These things help make sure that the podcast continues heading up. Thanks so much for being here and tuning in.
Are you ready to engage supporters and grow your base with your own podcast? Then let us introduce you to our partners at the AV Department in Portland, Oregon. In addition to delivering exceptional live event audiovisual production and videography, they also have a top-tier production studio and an expert team ready to take your content ideas to the next level. Contact the AV Department to schedule a consultation and start bringing your podcast vision to life.